Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for digital nomads, expats, travelers, entrepreneurs, investors, and related internationals. For more information, please visit venezuelainsider.com. Venezuela ain't that cheap as you might think. And if you are in the States or Western Europe, you name it, and you say, oh, Venezuela is just, and I don't have a word, a shithole country on South America, maybe I can get some deals. And actually, you can get some deals in Venezuela, don't get me wrong. However, if you think that you're going to come here with just a few $100s and you're going to be a king, you're going to be a baller here in Venezuela, I have many clients who think that, and I have to say, you got another thing coming here in Venezuela. Here's what happens. In Venezuela, you have a reasonable cost of living if you come from abroad, and you can spend on a monthly basis between $1,000 and $2,000 per month. That's cheap compared to many places around the world. However, it's not that cheap. I mean, this is not the Philippines or Vietnam or some sub-Saharan African economy. I mean, if you want to have a great standard of living here in Venezuela, you have to spend way more than just a few couple of bucks. So if you just show up with a few $100s, that's not going to impress anybody, and you're going to make a fool for yourself. Now, let me speak about what is cheap here in Venezuela. And already did a video about that, what's cheaper in Venezuela. First, real estate. You can buy real estate with a few tens of thousands of dollars. It's not that you're going to buy a house with $1,000 or $5,000. Actually, the $5,000 would be on a pretty bad area, on a pretty bad city that you don't want to live. I don't want to live over there, so I'm not going to buy such property. However, you can get nice properties around 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, yes, and cheaper than that, of course, but in bad areas and bad cities. So stay away with that. Other major things that you find cheaper here in Venezuela: electricity bill, pretty cheap. It's $10, $20, some cases even free. Also, the gas prices are cheaper in most places around the world. A liter of gasoline is 50 cents, so a gallon of gasoline is less than $2. That's cheaper than the United States. That's way cheaper than Western Europe, and even cheaper than the rest of the places here in Latin America. But you have to take it with a grain of salt, because in Venezuela, the gasoline a few years ago was pretty much free, and most Venezuelans are struggling because they were accustomed to buying the gasoline pretty much for nothing, and right now they have to spend like $20, $30, depending on their vehicle, in order to fill up the tank. Also, major cheaper things that you can find here in Venezuela is that you don't have to pay so much fees and such, these nonsense payments that you have in the United States and such. And of course, if you want medical attention, it's not cheap for the average Venezuelan. However, it's cheaper than most developed economies. It's way cheaper than the United States. I can say that it's cheaper than the private Canadian healthcare system. Is cheaper than the UK private healthcare system. Of course, you have in UK you have the NHS, I believe, but many times you have to go beyond that system, go to the private system. Venezuela is going to be cheaper. Get dental job done, maybe a major surgery or such. However, it's not cheap for the average Venezuelan. It's not going to cost just maybe $50. It's going to cost, let's say, a few $1,000s, or depending on the surgery. It's a minor surgery. It can cost a few $100s, let's say several $100s, but it's not cheap. It's not free. You know what I mean? You have to make a purchase, not a purchase, but a payment, a fee in order to do that. So you have to take that in mind. Now let's talk the things that are most expensive here in Venezuela. Buying a car. Buying a car here in Venezuela is expensive. Not only for the Venezuelans, for everybody. And here's why. Basically, in Venezuela, we don't produce new cars, brand new cars here in Venezuela, so we have to import them. And there is some taxes, some custom taxes you have to pay for that, and also the whole operation is quite expensive. So an SUV, let's say a Ford SUV, a Toyota SUV, you name it, that costs, let's say, 30,000, 40,000 in the United States, here in Venezuela can cost 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000. Depends on the vehicle. That's on a new vehicle. And if you want to go to the used vehicle market, and though the used cars here in Venezuela are expensive compared to most places around the world. So a cheap used car here in Venezuela costs around $4,000, $5,000. And I'm talking for an old car. And of course, you can get a decent SUV here in Venezuela on the range between $15,000 and $25,000 and used SUV. So keep that in mind. Also, renting such car is expensive here in Venezuela. It's more expensive than, let's say, the United States. I think it's cheaper than Europe. You got the idea. Also, here in Venezuela, and this is the thing that is hurts the most for the average Venezuelan is the food. The food here in Venezuela is expensive for most people because there is a lot of frictions in order to produce goods, food items here in Venezuela on a greater scale. So meat is expensive for the average Venezuelan, maybe not as much as expensive as in Europe or the Americas or you name it, still expensive. And also fruits, vegetables, stuff like that is not cheap. It's not cheap for the average Venezuelan, but also it's pretty manageable price for most international. So it's not as expensive. It's not expensive actually. It's not cheap. I mean, it doesn't cost 2 cents to buy a vegetable. It costs close to $1 to buy, a handful of vegetables, and still cheaper than most Western economies, but still expensive for the average citizen. And lastly, this discretionary spending that you have in most of the world. Let's say you want to buy a new iPhone. In Venezuela, it's more expensive than most countries. And I don't know, and I'm not an iPhone guy, so I don't know, but I know it's expensive. It's like 25, 30% more expensive to buy such things here in Venezuela. So if you're coming to Venezuela, just buy the damn iPhone abroad. That's it. It will be it. And also getting clothing, designer clothing from abroad. It's more expensive here. So you're gonna have to rely on the local producers. We have a lot of tailors and apparel brands here in Venezuela that are quite good. Actually, this is, by the way, this is made here in Venezuela by a Venezuelan designer that is descended by Italians, something like that. And I like this brand, very good. Also use the foreign brands as well, but I like the Venezuelan brands here. They're pretty good. They're pretty high quality, so I don't have a problem with that. However, you have to keep that in mind. So to summarize, Venezuela, it's expensive. Well, depends who you ask. If you come here, you make, let's say, $2,000 per month, and that's your budget, your monthly budget. You're gonna be pretty much fine here, and of course, you wanna be the bowler, the Miami bowler, and the champagne, and the VIP bottle services, and of course, it's gonna be with $2,000, it's not gonna cut it. However, if you have a decent middle class life, standard of living, you can pretty much pay for your rent, your food, your transportation, your amenities, your hobbies, movie tickets, clothes, you you can pretty much do it. Of course, the main difficulty here in Venezuela is most people don't make such income, and that's why they find it expensive living here in Venezuela. But as I say, if you're an international, you have to come here with some cash. If you come here broke, you're gonna have a terrible experience here in Venezuela. However, if you are a digital nomad, an entrepreneur, you name it, you don't have to be the 7 and 8 figure entrepreneur, but if you are a 5-figure entrepreneur, you're gonna be pretty much fine here in Venezuela, nothing to worry about regarding prices. Thank you for watching the whole video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on our social media. Remember to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again. Have a nice day.